Welcome to castings of ranked 1v1s in PA of the new ranked map pool. In this particular game, we've got Sinoccence on the south spawn in Gunmetal Grey against Nick, current Uber 1, on the north spawn. Allow me to just set my screen a little closer to me so I can see exactly what's going on. Righty-ho. Double bot spawn from Nick on this map, Sinoccence. Very small metal planet. There's some expansions pretty close, but not too much metal floating around. So there's a lot of fast and frantic fights going on. I don't imagine, then again I haven't seen too many games, I don't imagine the air is going to be a super powerful thing on this map, simply because ground is probably going to get there a lot faster and is going to be generally more potent because of the fabbers. 3 fabs out already for Sinoccence on the south, 2 bot fabs as well, only going in for an air as the third factory and not a double air either, just a single. Sending a fab off to get the single mechs rather than a double first. And sending some docks out ahead. They then managed to grab this choke point here just to defend that fabber. He gets where he needs to go. Likewise with these docks going and guarding these choke points. Meanwhile, Nick taking the longer route between the bases rather than the shorter. Streaming the docks down. Also gone... No, he hasn't gone double bots, then air, then third bots. He's gone triple bots before his air factory. So Sinoccence is going to be slightly behind on the bot production in the early part of this game. We have a few bots coming in now. They're going to see a couple of fabs. Are they going to get them? No. Fabs stay alive. That's good for Sinoccence. Nick, though, is now aware of exactly what's going on. Sinoccence has got some docks of his own coming in. He may be able to get some fabber snipes here if he's lucky. Just about sees them on the edge of his vision there. I think he's trying to chase them down, but he's delaying them well enough. Managing to pick one off. And building the walls, Nick! With the intense micro, but still, the fabber goes down, and these docks can have a look around and see the expansion. They probably won't take either of these mechs down. But, I would imagine, well, Nick's straight away in with more fabbers, so actually, they may get one of those mechs down. Normally you have more docks to come over and support that. Let's have a look at Nick, though. Also moving in with his own docks and a spark there as well. They take a few more hits and do a bit more damage to dock spam. Don't want to go too close to that T1 turret, and as a result retreating, falling back there as the spark goes down. Nick coming up again to defend. One of those mechs did go down. Really good for Sinoccence so far. Nick moving straight into T2 here. He's done a good job of replenishing those fabbers. About to move in to replenish that mech site, but there is still a docks there. There we go, trying to get that sorted. And moving down to a dense cluster of metal down here on the equator. Trying to get that with these 2 fabs here. Sinoccence kind of disregarding this one at the moment, expanding out towards the other side of the equator where there's a triple mechs site there. He's got the odd 1 mechs here, there and everywhere. Rather than locking it down and defending it, he's just moving his fabs on. Getting to metal sites where he can get more bang for his buck. But building a Galata first rather than a point defense is going to leave these 2 fabs dead and buried. And a lot of metal into that Galata as well that also didn't go up. If it had gone up, it might have had a chance at shooting at the ground, but didn't quite get there. Many, many more bot factories coming out for Sinoccence as well now. Only the single air, and Nick likewise. Both of these players not really bothered with the air game. The mobility of the docks is too powerful at on this particular map. I'd be interested to know when players transition to vehicles, or if they do. In fact, on such a small map, I'm surprised that vehicles don't make an earlier appearance. I get triple bots, but I personally might have gone vehicles after that. Then again, it also depends on what your opponent's doing. Sinoccence rushing up this T2 factory there with a commander and a fab. Nick doing so with 3 fabs. A little bit behind there. The ecos are still pretty comparable on such a small map. Though Sinoccence having that T2 advantage is going to be pretty powerful. Right into the next part of this game. Still trying to keep ahead of the curve there, getting some P-gens before spamming out even more bot factories. Got a couple of idle bot fabbers there. They could be doing something, maybe assisting out with these factories, getting them up faster. 5 fabs doing that would get those factories up in a jiffy. Still not quite getting into the base there, but does just about manage to see that T2 factory almost completed. So Sinoccence is aware of the T2 power. Having a look around though, Nick just dropping a few units around the place just to try and guard these sites, but Sinoccence may be wise to this, sending out a few units that way anyway. It's interesting to note how Nick hasn't really expanded beyond his initial base here, bar the equator metal that he's really investing in here. He wants to keep this. It's a really powerful site on this map to have that one, especially on a map with overall such small quantities of metal. If I bring this drop down there, 45 metal only on, I think it's what, a 400 and something radius planet? Sinoccence in chat for the purpose of the VOD saying he wanted to start with lobs but forgot. Well, isn't that just a shame? Stream, how are my audio levels, by the way, with this microphone? As they were struggling a bit earlier. Hopefully they're fine. Nick coming in with the bombers, managing to get an okay bombing run. Not quite as good as he perhaps wanted to, but Sinoccence managing to spread them all quite nicely. Nick coming in with a ground force thereafter that is going to be outnumbering Sinoccence there, if we count them up. 6 and 23 to 6 and 8 now. Be able to come in and knock Sinoccence's eco down a peg. Although, that being said, Sinoccence is getting up T2 in his base now. Nick beginning to do the same, I would hope. He still hasn't actually gone for a T2 fab. Instead, electing to go straight into the combat units, the slammers and the sniper bots there. Wants to push fast and hard into Sinoccence. Sending in the slammers and the ghillies straight away without any hesitation at all. Second T2 factory going up for both players. Nick, though, faster than Sinoccence. So Nick slower to the first T2, but Sinoccence behind to the second one. That being said, Sinoccence is trying to exploit a flank here, although I think... There we go, that's how Nick knows to keep his unit sentry here. He's got a radar up. That radar there has range of this. Radar on this map is really quite strong. Most games I hear that pros tend not to bother with radar, but on small radius maps it is very, very valuable indeed because of the radius it covers. There with just the 2 slammers and the ghillie there. But a lot of sparks. The sparks, although they have quite a short range, I would imagine these players at this point are bolstering their forces not only for if things get into range, but also as meat shields, that they do take a few more hits than docs do. So when the T2 really comes in, the hits can be gone onto the docs and the sparks rather than the slammers and the snipers. But here, Nick just has a single sniper bot that's pecking away from a distance as he pushes in. So Sinoccence here retreating away but still losing units as a result. Almost Battle of Hastings style. What am I on about? Battle of Hastings. It wasn't the retreating forces that lost units, it was the chasers that did. There we go. A few more T2 units now on the field. Nick has his T2 Fabber up and running. Getting that economy in his base and the second factory as well. Both players now struggling for eco as they've got 2 T2 factories out. Sinoccence going for a third before he can properly support 2. Very aggressive indeed. Where is his T2 Faber gone? Has it been sniped somehow? It looks like it might have been. Or am I just being a bit blind? Oh no, it's sat right there. There you go, still building in the base. Haha. Good work from Nick there. With the bots being used so heavily, there aren't going to be any skitters on the field, and people tend not to bother with combat fabs. So Nick here with these mines, he could get some really nice kills off Sinoccence. That being said, this push could be a problem. We've got some walls going up in Nick's base there, using his lovely new Beast Commander that he got from being the top player in the last season. Focusing down on the commander there. Sinoccence managing to take him down to below 50%. Nick, though, with the Uber Cannon spam and the unit rallying, just about manages to survive that one. Really good defensive play there from Nick. Few fabs sniped there from Sinoccence, but he has been managing to expand out with a lot of metal there, up to 266, floating a bit. Could be getting a bit more power and some more factories, but that is going to help him support his third T2 factory. I wonder whether either of these players are going to employ locusts going into the next part of this game. More units from Sinoccence pushing in, though. Defenders at advantage being neglected here by Sinoccence. Such small armies pushing in here are rarely going to do much damage at this late stage of a game. Now it's Nick's turn to be aggressive. The units stood there, waiting for their commands. Sinoccence going for a 4th and 5th T2 factory. I mean, I guess... well... I guess not bothering with anything else, and no vehicle transition either. But that is not something you tend to see. That could be a bit of a risky play here from Sinoccence, and quite a costly one, pushing into this 4 mech site. As Nick is pulling in with his own units. Sinoccence dividing his forces as well, not necessarily wise, but managing to get in, taking out the pelter and the defensive turrets, circling round and keeping out of Nick's range there, taking minimal losses while getting rid of all that metal. Will it be worth it? We'll just have to see, but Sinoccence doing a good trade here as well, just about had the unit number advantage. Somehow that micro worked out, attacking a defended position there and whittling Nick's army down. Somehow that worked. Do not ask me how. Nick, though, with increasing quantities of blobs wandering around. And look at it, he's even built mines on Sinoccence's front doorstep. How inconsiderate. Sinoccence there. 42 bot factories now. Nick coming in scout, sees 2, sees 3. He's aware of it. Is he starting his own third? Not yet. Still got a weakened Beast Commander there. Pushing in on a couple of points now. Sinoccence still ahead in the eco game. Nick pulling back and regrouping there. He's got a lot of units on the field. A lot of units. 30 more than Sinoccence. That being said, Sinoccence probably has a lot more T2. If we just count up what Sinoccence has in the way of T2 there, plus 3 slammers. So we're up to 21 slammers for Sinoccence. However, for Nick, we are at 6. Actually, add in the other army, 19. So actually, their ground forces are relatively comparable. That being said, Sinoccence does have the production advantage here. That's the big problem. The big question. Sinoccence trying to push in again. Nick planning even more mines. The moment they are revealed, of course, Sinoccence will want to start factoring in his own combat fabs, and they will be revealed here with these poor slammers. Pop, 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 and pop. Does Sinoccence realise? And will he start factoring in? Defender's advantage coming into play again. Nick to the third T2 bot factory now. Oh, thank you for the raid, Jungleham. Welcome, everyone. And welcome to this stirring game. 3 T2 factories now. Plays 4. Army still favouring Nick. Factories and Fabs favouring Sino. Sino has the eco. Nick's struggling a bit for it. He needs to get this foresight back. No greater airplay yet. 3 factories now for Sinoccence. So Sinoccence has now invested in an additional 2 air factories. Questions in chat as to who's going to go T2 air first. Looks like Sinoccence is certainly making more of an air play. Nick, though, with a big army, all in one consolidated location. With a small one here, just in case a flanking opportunity is spotted. Sinocence's commander sat on the outside of his base. Not really where it wants to be at this late stage of a game. I wonder what Nick is doing. Looks like he's trying to get his eco in check. That's what he's doing. He needs to get some more factories, though. 7 to 13. He is behind. That being said, Sinoccence is giving him the breathing space. Sat with the armies in the base on the defensive. And Nick here making the pushes. I wonder, is Sinoccence waiting for Nick to make the push so that he can then counter-push? Because Sinoccence does have the army advantage now. 170! It's massively swung in the opposite direction now. And we do see some locusts coming out too now for Sinoccence. If they can find a hole, well, it's going to be curtains for Nick's rather localized base here. I'm just gonna keep those tracked in the bottom right pit there. So this is starting to push out on the relatively undefended flank here of Nick, who again has to reroute all forces to this frontier and pulling all the forces back rather than being aggressive. Again, Sinoccence with only half of his army pushing here, although I might be tempted to say only 60%. No, not even 60, sorry, 40 is what I meant. 40% of his army pushing on this front. There we go. The longer Nick waits, and the longer Sino waits, the bigger the army count disparity grows. And these snipers and slammers here picking off Sinoccence from a distance. Now this is interesting. Nick investing heavily in sniper bots. This could be his saving grace here, despite being quite far behind in the army counts. Using those sniper bots will give him that time to whittle down Sinoccence's aggressive forces. That being said, Sinoccence does have these locusts, waiting to use them. Nick building a teleporter pretty much inside his base. Where's he got the other end? Ah, that's an interesting use of teleporters here. Just in case Nick wants to decide, okay, I'm going to attack here, force or bait all of his units this way, and then retreat straight back, just in case he needed to get there. Although, well, that's what I'm assuming he's doing. But if that were to be the case, then this teleporter would want to be in the opposite facing direction. Oh, big fight coming here, though. All the slammers and the sniper bots. You can see how good the sniper bots are at whittling down Sinocence's forces. Picking off some slammers that were on the front lines there. Still picking them off. And still Nick taking no casualties there. Bombers trying to come in. Managing to just about get off one raid there. Sinocence with more bombers now. Here comes his air play that he's been keeping secret from Nick. Going all over that army. And he only has the anti-air of the docks. Starting to push in with his own ground forces now. Nick's sniper bots are whittled down. He doesn't have too many. They are having to hightail it back to the base now as Sinocence gives chase. A long syntax here. Does Nick have anything in his base? That being said, he does. And it's a big army attacking his commander. Ah! What? Sinocence, why you bait me on the other side of the map? When he's actually attacking with this main force on the front lines there. Didn't even bother using the Locust, just straight in with the main force. With Nick's entire army occupied on the other side of the planet. And he comes breaking out the last half of Nick's commander's health. The bait and switch. The garden path strategies. Well played there from Sinocence. Defeating Uber 1 Nick. Sinocence Platinum.